Shalom. Glory and honor to the Father, Yahweh. Glory and honor to the Messiah, his only begotten, Yahweh Shah. Greetings to the 12 tribes of Israel, scattered according to the words from Yahweh in this book, to the four corners of the earth who are now awakening to who they are, where they come from, what their true heritage is, and where they're about to go. To the 144,000 also among them, who are the forerunners, as it were, the John the Baptist, the Elijah, the Moses, before the return of Messiah and the establishment of his kingdom and the total annihilation of the system of Babylon. Greetings. Greetings to the Gentiles who have escaped wrath by connecting to, by faith, through faith in Messiah, the line of the tribe of Judah of Israel, by connecting to the Father's perfect righteousness by faith in him. Greetings. Greetings to the Brother Chaplain Lewis, Diamond Holdings, Only One Way, Isha Shama, Sister Daniels, Brother Daniels, Yaman Prakash, Yasharala, Brother Akawan Baya, Ruel, Brother Gary Joseph, Superstar, Stephen Kelly, Brother Naviska and their families, and others. Greetings, blessings to all of you. You have been studying Deuteronomy and getting a blessing from this book of the law. And we're going to continue to study this book by the grace of the Most High. Today we're in chapter 25 of this book of the law. I want to look at a couple of scriptures that are going to be pertaining to this book before we get started today. One of them is in 2 Corinthians. I always get them confused. One of these days I'll remember which one is which, but 2 Corinthians chapter 11. 2 Corinthians chapter 11. The first and second stuff gets me. 1st and 2nd Corinthians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, especially, I could get confused with those. But this is 2 Corinthians chapter 11. 2 Corinthians chapter 11. I want you to notice something here, which we're going to run into in Deuteronomy chapter 25. 2 Corinthians chapter 11. I was going to start. Let me see. He's writing to the Corinthians. I'm going to start here at verse 10. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, beginning at verse 10. And I'm going to read through from verse 10 down to verse, let's see. I'm going to read from verse 10 down to verse 28. 2 Corinthians, but really is verse 24 that's pertaining to us today. So let's look at from verse 10 to verse, actually, I'm just going to read down to verse 25. So from 2 Corinthians chapter 11, from verse 10 to 25. As the truth of Messiah is in me, no man shall stop me of this boasting in the regions of Achaia. Wherefore? Because I love you not, Yah knoweth. But what I do, that I will do, that I may cut off occasion from them which desire occasion, that wherein they glory, they may be found as we. For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Messiah. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. So obviously at this point, we could see Paul is talking about false ministers, posing as ministers of the Messiah. Okay, he's talking about false ministers. And he's saying that we shouldn't be surprised at that because Satan reveals himself as an angel of light. And he does. In all the deceptions of the earth, he always reveals himself as something positive, as an angel of light. But in that, as angel of light, he moves away from the word of the Most High and from the Most High. And he moves people away by promising them something that seems good, just like he did with Eve, right? And usually involving man as God, okay? So no moral, for Satan himself is transformed into the angel of light. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. I say again, let no man think me a fool, if otherwise, yet as a fool receive me, that I may boast myself a little. That which I speak not after the master, but as it were foolishly, in this confidence of boasting. Seeing that many glory after the flesh, I will glory also. For ye suffer fools gladly, seeing ye yourselves are wise. For ye suffer if a man bring you into bondage, if a man devour you, if a man take of you, if a man exalt himself, if a man smite you in the face. I speak as concerning reproach, as though we had been weak. Howbeit, whereinsoever any is bold, I speak foolishly. I am bold also. Are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they the seed of Abraham? So am I. So obviously now the people that he's talking about that are positioning themselves as angels of light, that are positioning themselves as apostles, but are false, are Israelites. We'll talk more about that in a second. Verse 23. Are they ministers of Messiah? I speak as a fool. I am more. In labors more abundant, in stripes above measures, in prisons more frequent, in deaths oft. Of the Jews, that is, of his own people, the bloodline, 5 times received I 40 stripes, save one. Of his own people, he was captured and beaten with 40 stripes. We're going to find that in Deuteronomy 25. Thrice was I beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. Thrice I suffered shipwreck. A night and a day have I been in the deep. So we can see that this is of his own brethren. Now, what's the point here? At the time, the Israelite bloodline was universally acknowledged as people that served an invisible God that had chosen them as his chosen people. They were universally acknowledged as people that had been delivered from Egypt, had gotten land. They were universally acknowledged. Therefore, they were the repositories of what we call today the church. Y'all get that? So their ministers, their Sadducees, their Pharisees were considered the high level religionists, right? The high level at that time. To go to show you how things have been changed, the high level religionists today are Christians. The head of the Christian church is the Pope. And they're considered the repositories of truth, along with Muslims. They are considered the experts of knowledge of religious things and of the Most High. That is why the Bible shows us that Satan deceives the whole world. That is why it shows us that the beast was worshipped and Satan was worshipped. Because you could see it went from Israel to now straight, full-on children of Yafet. Y'all see that? So now the religionists at the time were Israel, and everybody acknowledged that. But now, even he's talking about them as evil, doing evil, which they did, but it was because they had this authority. So they would go to the places where Paul was and claim authority of more knowledge than him because they were Israelites. That's why he said, are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they the seed of Abraham? So am I. Because they were using that as their leverage for their relevance to speak against what Paul was preaching in terms of the way being Messiah, the way. Well, today, you have the same thing, but it's no longer even with the bloodline anymore. Just to show you how far removed we are from Yah's plan, okay? And how important the awakening is, okay? Because in the so-called Middle Ages, otherwise known as the Dark Ages, what was the Catholic Church doing? People that were rebellious against them, against their religion, wouldn't receive their religion. If you were a Hebrew, remember what they did? They sent you to an island to be evangelized. They kicked you out. And then even those that weren't the bloodline, like the Sephardim that were in Europe, they kicked them out because they were Judaizers. The Pope was quoted it, said, we won't have no Judaizers. And so they took upon themselves, the word Catholic means universal. They took upon themselves to become Israel. And even to this day, you got Christians believing that they're Israel. Or what do they call themselves? Spiritual Israel. You got Christians believing that they're spiritual Israel. And what did they do? They would, the Catholic Church would burn people at the stake that weren't with their religion. People that were normally, and this is, they treated really hard, people that were monks or had been priests and started reading the word and became Protestants, broke away and became a offshoot of the Catholic Church. They treated them real hard. They would torture them, burn them, strangle them. Like I said, William Tyndale, who we get the King James Bible from, is from William Tyndale. They took Tyndale's work and just finished it because he hadn't got a chance to finish it because they caught him in another part of Europe, brought him back to England, tortured him, publicly humiliated him, brought him to this burning stake, strangled him at the stake, then burned him, then took his bones and burned them again. See, this is the only version of the Bible where that happened. I want y'all to understand this on a spiritual level. The only version of the Bible that the man that did this was treated like that. No other version. No other version of the Bible did people catch this, what this man caught. Why do you think that is on a spiritual level? Why would you think that is? Why did Asatan decide that above all the people, the Douay Bibles, the New International Versions, the New King James Version, well, of all of those Bibles, the man that did this KJV, the man that was responsible for this book, William Tyndale, he gets tortured. This is true now. He gets tortured. He gets strangled. He gets burned. And then they take his bones and burn them again. See, that's what I'm saying. People that talk against the King James don't know what I just told you, nor do they care. See, there is no Apocrypha. There is no, and there's no other Bible like this one. Because this is the one, listen, this is the one literally translated in blood. Do you understand what I just said? This is the only one translated in blood. Translated in blood. Okay? And so they did that to establish Christianity as the new authority of what who the Most High is, representing his truth, representing his way. And they changed his laws to suit their man-made religion. Then they created Islam to try to reach people in the Middle East with the same spirit. And Islam had the same spirit. Islamic crusades represented castration and rape. It still does. Boko Haram is go through Nigeria, raping, castrating, killing. And that's their way of crusade. That's their way of conversion. See? That's their way of conversion. And then people have the nerve. Then, of course, they haven't read this book. But they have the nerve to say, well, isn't that what God did when they came into the Middle East? When they came into the land of Canaan, didn't he kill? There's a difference. And I suggest those that, would make these false claims, go back and read the evidence. Because the evidence said he told Abraham, the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. The iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. The curse wasn't upon all black people, and it wasn't upon Ham. The curse was on Canaan. He said, a servant of servants shall he be. And that's why they was promised the land of Canaan. And why? What was Canaan doing? Leviticus 18, burning their children in fire. Men having sex with their mothers. Fathers having sex with their daughters. Homosexuality. Women having sex with animals. That's what they were doing for 400 years. That's why their land got taken. Okay, that's why their land. No, Canaan didn't kill Abel. Cain killed Abel. It's a different person in Monopoly. That's Cain. That's a different person. But the land of Canaan was promised to the Israelites. It was the land of Canaan promised to them. Okay. And there was a reason for that. And so that's why Israel didn't go to other lands and force their religion on other people. They came to that land and took that land by command of the Creator because of what the people of that land had practiced for 4 centuries. Okay? That was the land promised to Abraham because of what they were practicing. The curse was on Canaan. It wasn't on Cush. It wasn't on Mizraim, who later became Egypt. It wasn't on Foot. It was on Cain. Okay? That's right. So that's a difference than going in other people's countries, snatching their men, forcing them at knife point or gunpoint to convert to your religion or receive death. That's a different thing. Okay? And we're going to talk more about that as we go through. But here you can see this had to do with he received 40 stripes. There's a reason for that. We're going to talk about that. But he received 40 stripes. And he said he received it 5 times. So he said one of those times was 39. And it was because, why was that? Why was that? Look, I think it's, I want to say it's, there you go again. I want to say it's 1 Thessalonians, but it might be 2 Thessalonians. Listen. Yeah, it's 1 Thessalonians. 1 Thessalonians. Chapter 2, 1 Thessalonians chapter 2. Watch this. 1 Thessalonians chapter 2. Beginning at verse 14. That's right. They don't go over 40. The number 40, right? 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, beginning at verse 14. And look to verse 16. Why were they doing this? Notice what it says here. For ye, brethren, became followers of the churches of Yah, which in Judea are in Messiah Yahushua. So in Judea, that is the Hebrews, they were called churches of Messiah. Why? Because they were followers of the way. They were Hebrew Israelites that were followers of Messiah, who is they were declaring the Messiah of the Hebrew Israelites. Right? So, okay. For ye also have suffered like things of your own countrymen, even as they of the Jews. So the Gentiles were suffering persecution of other Gentiles for receiving the truth of the Hebrew Messiah, just as the Hebrews that received the truth and received Messiah as Messiah were suffering persecution from their own leadership and countrymen, right? So the religious leadership in Jerusalem of Pharisees, Sadducees, otherwise known as Sanhedrin, was persecuting anyone that would walk in the way. That is Messiah, that would walk in the way. Even Paul said, I went to persecute those that were follower of this way. And the word way, if you look at the translation, is the way. They called Messiah the way because he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, right? Verse 15. Who both killed the master Yahushua and their own prophets and have persecuted us, and they please not Yahweh and are contrary to all men. Watch verse 16. Forbidding us to speak to the Gentiles, that they might be saved, to fill up their sins all the way, for the wrath is come upon them to the uttermost. So let's check this out now. So Messiah, we know from Paul's own testimony written in the book of Acts, that on the way to Damascus to arrest and persecute those who were followers of the way met him, right? The way met him. And when he met the way, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, Yahushua, when he met him, he became now his own minister, and Messiah instructed him and instructed Ananias, I have chosen him to be a vessel to bear my name to the Gentiles. So that was a direct command from the Messiah, who represents Father Yah. Therefore, it was a direct command from the Father, because Messiah only speaks those words that come from the Father. He already told us that. So Father said, I'm choosing this man Shaul, who later changed his name to Paul or Paul. I'm making him my minister of the truth of the Hebrew gods God to the Gentiles. But it said here that the leadership in Judah was trying to forbid him from speaking to the Gentiles. Therefore, if you read Acts, every place he went, they were following him. They were following him to kill him and to stop him. And if you read Acts, you would see that he would visit synagogues and try to make peace. He wasn't trying to fight with them because why? He was under a command from the Father to do this. If it wasn't that, he wouldn't have did it. But he was under command to the Father to bring this truth to the Gentiles. And his own Hebrew brethren was trying to stop him from bringing this truth to the Gentiles. So he was supposed, and that's why Peter said, we ought to obey Yah rather than man. See? So that's why they would capture him, give him 40 stripes, tell him to stop. Same thing they did with Peter and the other apostles. Okay. Now, today is interesting. Like I mentioned, so today the repositories of truth universally known are Christians and Muslims, and they come from the same people. Okay. I know everybody likes to say, and the Bible never says Ishmael became a Muslim. It never says that. Does it? Please show me that verse. Where does it say Ishmael became a Muslim? It doesn't. and let me also share this with you. It is universally acknowledged that that Muslim Islam did not come into existence until the 7th century AD. Let's think about this for a second. The 7th century AD. Abraham existed 4,000 years before Messiah. And his son Ishmael was approximately 4,000 years before Messiah. 4,000 years before Messiah. The 7th century, which is 6 something AD, 6 whatever, 6, I don't know what exact date, but Muhammad claims to have seen his vision around 6 something AD. It was 100 years after the establishment of the Catholic Church as an entity, as an institution, was established in 508 when the French king said that the Bishop of Rome is the corrector of all heretics. Saying now, by royalty, we give this honor and authority to the Catholic Church to be the leader of religion in Europe, therefore around the world, because they started dominating the world. The children of Yafet, as we know at that time, according to prophetic utterance, they started dominating the earth, right? They started dominating the earth with the Medes and the Persians after the Hamites of Babylon did. Then came Greeks, then came the Romans, right? So they started dominating the earth, and now they were establishing themselves from a military dominance to a religious dominance, and the King of France said that. He's the corrector of all heretics, 508 AD, okay? Then about 100 years later came Muhammad with his vision, and that's when Islam was born. That's why they worship the bricks in the middle of in Saudi Arabia, because that's Muhammad. Muhammad lived 600 years after when BC became AD. About 700, it's 600 something. It's the 7th century. See, century is always like so. Example like this: the 1st century was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. The 2nd century was AD 100 something. The 3rd century was 200. The 4th century was 300, so forth. When you get to the 7th century, it's 600 something. Y'all got that? Okay, so you have Muhammad coming 6 centuries after Messiah, but you have Abraham and Ishmael existing 4,000 years before. So here come, listen now, here come Muhammad 4,600 years after Ishmael. And everybody says it's Ishmael versus Isaac, right? You see how ridiculous that is? You see how ridiculous that is? 4,600 years later. Ishmael and Isaac, that's a Christian falsehood. Okay, that's a Christian falsehood. Didn't have anything to do with Ishmael. Didn't have anything to do for Ishmael. Okay, anything. It was not only centuries, it was millennium. The difference between where Ishmael was and where Muhammad had his vision. Catholic Church, along with the creation of Islam. And they show themselves because they do the same things. Do you know that? Okay, we talked about the Crusades and how and it was millions of people. I just use William Tyndale because of his work in terms of translating the Bible into English. But it wasn't just him. There were millions of people that were treated like him. And then, of course, there was the Islamic Revolution. And they went and they had the Ottoman Empire, right? The Ottoman Empire. And they overthrew the Catholic Church's hold in Turkey. Okay. Constantinople became Istanbul. And they did the same thing. They came through all lands, and if you didn't convert, you was killed. They castrated the Hebrew men and snatched and raped the Hebrew women. That's right. Exactly, Aman. And they both use rosary beads, and they both pray to idols, though they claim not to. Okay, both of them do. If you speak against Muhammad, Muslims will want to kill you. And I'm saying literally, seriously, if you speak against Muhammad, even if you're not a Muslim, they'll want to kill you. Okay? They'll want to kill you. So for the Catholic Church, it's the Vatican. It sits on the mountain, does not? The Vatican City sits on the mountain. And do not millions and millions of Catholics go there every single year because that's where the Pope house is? And what they do in Saudi Arabia, they bow to Muhammad's Mecca. Don't they? Am I lying? Don't they all bow to that? If there's a stone, am I lying about that? Is that true? Don't they go bow to that block in the wilderness out there? It's a place where Muhammad was. It's like, I don't know if it's his birthplace. They call it the center of the earth. Okay, so you got the phallic symbol in the Vatican. And then you got the rock, the center of the earth. Exactly. So these two came up together because you had first came the Catholic Church in the 6th century. Then the 7th century came Islam. Now, what do you think came in the 8th century? The 8th century came something else. They were all in a row. First was the Catholic Church. Then came Islam in the 7th century. What came in the 8th century? That's right, Judaism came in the 8th century. That's when the people of the Kazakhs became converts to this religion of Judaism. Khazarians, they became converts to this religion of Judaism. And they're converts. They're not bloodline. They're converts to Judaism. Judaism represented Edom. Judaism represents Edom. Judaism don't represent Hebrews. Because when you read this book, you will see no Judaism. You will see no Judaism. They represent Edomites. Okay? That's right, awakened bloodline. Okay, so there's a lot of bloodline, but then there's a remnant, according to grace, that's awakened bloodline, the awakened bloodline. Okay. Okay. Keep looking at this video, Iman Prakash. Just review it right here. It's at 29 minutes. Go back from 25 minutes to 29 minutes. You'll catch it. See, so you have 5th century, 508. That's an established fact. 508. I forgot the name of the king, the French king. But the French king declared the Roman bishop, they called him, the corrector of all heretics. That's the Pope. 100 years later, Muhammad has his vision. And you have Islam. That's born. 100 years later, Khazarians convert as a nation in Eastern Europe to Judaism. That becomes the state religion. Okay? And you had people that influenced them like the Sephardim. Do you guys know, according to the Bible, who the Sephardim is? The Sephardim, if you read the Bible, the Sephardim were the people that the Assyrians brought. They were Assyrian, and they were brought to the northern tribes to replace the northern tribes. They're Sephardim. They weren't bloodline. They were Sephardim. And so people think Sephardic Jews, and they try to prop them up as if they're the bloodline. They're not the bloodline. They were there, they've been in that land a long time. They've been in that land since the Assyrians came and snatched the northern tribes away. But they are not the bloodline. Okay? They're not the bloodline. Okay? The bloodline is us. We the bloodline. That's right. Again, it's all here, brethren. You don't need to be confused. It's all in here. It's all in there. It's all in there. Everything that I just told you is in there. The prophecies about Islam and what happened with Islam and Catholicism, they started over the land. They started fighting over the borderline. And that is illustrated in Revelation chapter 9 with the one they call the angel of the bottomless pit. It's all there, okay? It's all there. That's the fifth trumpet, all there. Okay, right there. Fourth trumpet, Catholicism. Fifth trumpet, Islam, right there. Then, of course, in the sixth trumpet, they that say they are Jews and are not. That's the sixth church, sixth seal, sixth trumpet. Those that say they are Jews and are not. 666. Okay? It's all in there, brethren. Just read and pray to your Father for his spirit. He will guide you and direct your path. Don't have to believe me. Pray to your Father. He will guide you. Father Yahweh, he will guide those that are sincere in truth in every nation. He's with those that are in truth and righteousness. He's with you. If you wanted the truth, you believe this though. When you follow the truth, you're going to end up catching what Paul catch. That's right. The 777 completion. Lamech. You know who Lamech was? Lamech was Noah's father. He's the one named Noah. He died before the flood at age 777. That's true. That's Genesis. I think it's I want to say it's chapter 4. Genesis chapter 4. He died at age 777 after he had Noah and named Noah. Okay, he died before his father. His father was Methuselah, who died the same year as the flood. Look at that. Okay, the Most High puts some of his saints to sleep before destruction comes. He's going to resurrect them. You know what he's doing. Praise the Most High. Okay, that's right. Exactly right. There are no coincidences. We don't always understand everything, and that's okay. We're not supposed to understand everything because we're limited in our knowledge because of our sinful condition. All of us are recovering sinners, but there is no coincidence. See, the problem is some people don't want to acknowledge there's things we just don't know, and we're not going to know. It's okay. I'm trying to get what the Most High wants us to know, right? We should be rejoicing. Moses said what he has revealed belongs to us. What he has not revealed belongs to him. But what he has revealed belongs to us. Okay? And these things he has revealed. Praise the Most High. So next time somebody says, well, Ishmael is Islam. How could Ishmael didn't have no Islam? That was 4,000. That was 4 millennium and 6 centuries after Ishmael. Ishmael had no Islam. Okay. Deuteronomy 25, beginning at verse 1. Deuteronomy 25, beginning at verse 1. I'm going to read from verse 1 to verse 3. Deuteronomy 25, from verse 1 to verse 3. If there be a controversy between men, and they come unto judgment, that the judges may judge them, then they shall justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. And it shall be, if the wicked man be worthy to be beaten, that the judge shall cause him to lie down and to be beaten before his face, according to his fault, by a certain number. 40 stripes he may give him, and not exceed. lest if he should exceed and beat him above these with many stripes, then thy brother should seem vile unto thee. So that's where you get the 40 stripes from. Okay, let's put this together. So y'all know the judges were the Levites. The Levites were the judges. So they would bring matters before the Levites, and it was their position, the priesthood, their position to make judgment for right and for wrong. And that's why he said, justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. Okay. And he said, if somebody's worthy of stripes, like we talked about that a couple of chapters ago, like if a man has a woman and they have sex and they're caught and he's not betrothed to her, or he marries a woman and he says she wasn't a virgin and he tell everybody she was a hoe, and now they find out that was wrong, she wasn't no hoe, and he was put a bad name out on a sister in Israel, he received stripes for that. Okay, running your mouth falsely, receive stripes. If you wasn't put to death, you receive stripes. Okay, 40 stripes. So now, why did Paul receive 40 stripes? Was he doing evil? Well, apparently, according to the leadership of Israel. Now, this is interesting because you had one high priest in Israel, right? You had one high priest. That's what the Bible tells us. One high priest. And that man was high priest until he died, right? Why did they have two? Did you know that Caiaphas and Annas shared power as high priests when Messiah came? Did you know it was both of them? Annas and Caiaphas? And did you know that when they were Annas and Caiaphas sharing power as high priests, that was against the word of the Most High, number one. Number two, they decided to send him to Herod, the Edomite, and then from Herod to Pilate of the Romans. It was Caius and Annas. Why? Because they was corrupt. They were not following the word. It was about business. Caiaphas was the son-in-law, not the son. Remember now, it's supposed to be the son. He was son-in-law to Annas. And so they kept it, it's like a corporation. It's like a conspiracy. And they conspired to kill the Lion of the tribe of Judah. They conspired among themselves, and they conspired with the Edomites, and they conspired with the Romans. It was a conspiracy, was it not? Pilate testified, I find no fault in this man. He washed his hands from him. He said, I'm innocent of the blood of this just person. And he knew, and the Bible says he knew that for envy they delivered him. It wasn't that he did anything wrong. That's right. Pontius Pilate was a Roman. He was the Roman procurator. He was the governor of Israel appointed by Caesar. So look, you had a conspiracy between, listen now, the religious leaders of the time, the Edomites, and the Romans. Yes, he did. Declared Messiah innocent. Even Peter said, he told the religious leaders, you all had him killed when Pilate was determined to let him go. So Pilate, the Roman, Herod, the Edomite, and religious leaders that are supposed to represent Israel, but was really representing Satan, conspired against the Messiah. Isn't that interesting? Let me ask you a question. Could it be that the Romans today and the Edomites today could be working along with apostate Israelites today to condemn the bloodline, the followers of the way? Could that be? Could that happen? What do you think? Could history repeat itself? Yes. The Bible is showing us the conspiracy, and it's showing us what's going on today. So you want to know the Edomites' role? Yeah, there's Herod. There's Herod. There's Pilate. They're all ruling over Israel. And then you have turncoats, bloodline turncoats, that are all conspiring to kill the anointed one of Father Yah. Isn't that amazing? So Paul received 40 stripes as if he was a criminal. He said, you shall justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. So because Paul, listen to this now, because Paul was following the word of the Father. Messiah is the word made flesh. What word? The word of the Father. Did he not testify? I don't speak anything on my own. Whatever my Father tells me, that's what I say. That's what Messiah is. Messiah is the word of the Father. He is the Son of Yahweh. So Paul is following the Son of Yahweh. Now let's talk about Paul for a second. Is not Paul condemned by certain Hebrews today? Even so-called awakened Hebrews, is he not condemned? Do not people say his words are not inspired? Do people not say today we don't believe the New Testament because Paul is not inspired? So he's hated by his own brethren. We bloodline to Paul. Paul is of the tribe of Benjamin. We bloodline are Paul's bloodline. Okay? And is not Paul's words twisted by Romans to say that Yah has put away his law? Isn't that what's happening now? And is not the Edomites working with the Romans to say they are the real true people? They are the true Israelites and they should take the Israelites. Are they not doing that? Am I making that up? Is it real or not? Can you bear witness? So they treated Paul like he was wicked and they gave him 40 stripes. And they did it because he was following the word of Yah. Now, let's take it a step further. What do I always tell y'all? What are my words to you? Is not my word this every time I teach y'all? Don't I say, read this word, follow your father? Don't I say that? Don't I say, read this word and follow your father? Isn't that what Paul was doing? So now we know what to expect, don't we? If you read the word and you follow your father, you can expect a triple attack. You can expect an attack from your own bloodline that's unawakened and working for the Romans and the Edomites. You can expect an attack from the Edomites. You can expect, obviously, an attack from the Rome. You can expect it. The Bible shows us this threefold union, 6, 6, 6, brings the mark of the beast. And the action that brings the mark, as we know, if any man worship the beast. If any man worship the beast. And the false prophet brought forth the image to the beast. Whoever would not worship, the Bible says in Revelation chapter 13, verse 15, whosoever would not worship the image, that is the United States of America, should be killed. Now you know where your enemy is, and you know where his attack is coming from. The Most High is faithful, man. He is so faithful that he shows us way beforehand. Before, you know what? Listen, before they even know. Before they even know. Judas was the traitor when he showed up, but he didn't realize what he was going to do. He didn't know he was going to be the traitor, but Messiah knew. The Sanhedrin, when they first met Messiah, they were threatened by him, but they didn't start later to be the murderers, but he knew already they were going to be his murderers. So Father shows us, that's why if you tell heathen what I'm just telling you, they're going to tell you crazy, because he's showing you and me before they even know. That's why this I say that a prophetic word of this book is what differentiates this book from every other book that was ever written on the planet Earth. The prophetic utterance. He's telling us, and that's what Messiah said. He said, behold, I've told you before. Behold, I've told you before. So that you might know, so that you might believe. He's telling you before. And brethren, that's why we ask for the power, not just to perform the works that Messiah will have us perform, which is important, but also that the Spirit will warn us in advance what's going on, what's coming. So he's telling us he's telling us where it's coming from. He's telling us where it's coming from, and you believe the word. That's why we can look back on things like the Civil Rights Movement and know it was a setup. We knew it was a setup. You know it was a setup, right? Because look, what did we gain from that? What did the so-called African American actually gain from the Civil Rights Movement? What was a positive gain from that? Did we become equal in terms of our social position? Did we get equal pay? Are we equally unemployed with them? Or are we more unemployed with them? Do we get equal health care or do we get worse health care? Do two people that have the same job, one being a Hebrew and one not, do they get the equal pay if the children of Yafet is with you in the same job? No. So what exactly did we get? We got the ability to piss in the same toilet. That's all we got. The ability to spend our hard-earned money in their stores. That's all we got. That's what we got. That's right. See, so if nothing was really accomplished by it, what was the purpose of it? Well, see, all you got to do is very simple. Follow the money and follow the power. What ended up happening? As a result of the civil rights movement, a couple of things happened. Number one, Black people vote Democrat overwhelmingly all the time. Before, when Lincoln freed the slave, Lincoln was a Republican and he freed the slaves. And slaves, ex-slaves, when they could vote, they voted Republican. But because now the Democrats said, oh, we could win it, we could change that. So they put money in the hands of Black people that were supposed to represent our religious leaders. They arranged marches and all of this, had people believing in it. And they got us to vote for them. And so therefore, and this, I'm not trying to exonerate Republicans. Why do you think Lincoln freed the slaves? Did he free the slaves because he thought slavery was wrong? No, and that's documented. He did not think slavery was wrong. He needed the reinforcements to win the war. So in other words, we was being used. And in the civil rights movement, again, we was being used. And let me explain to you something. We're always being used. 100% of the time. When powers that be are doing something together, we're always being used. So you must think about it like this. Whenever something is happening that appears to benefit us, you got to understand something. We're being used for something. Okay? We're being used. Okay? Always. And so now we know a couple things. We're being used. We know the three powers coming together to use us, and then later to exploit us. Malcolm X said some very important thing. I put it on Facebook about a week or so ago. He said, only among Black people, the so-called Black men, are entertainers considered leaders. Isn't that interesting? He said, you'll never see Caucasians consider their leaders entertainers. But Black people are the only people that take entertainers as their leaders. Isn't that amazing? Why is that? Because they use us. They take entertainers, they prop them up, they give them a lot of money, give them a lot of authority, give them a lot of exposure, positive exposure, and they make them our heroes. They make the entertainers our heroes. Okay. Whereas with the Caucasian, you look at their heroes, they're politicians, they're businessmen. Right? They're religious leaders. That's their heroes. They choose who ours is. And ones that might raise up and become real leaders, they kill them. That's right. Who taught you to hate yourself? See? So when we have the mindset that we understand now where they're coming at us, that we understand the why of everything. That's why the Most High shows us who we are as the true Hebrews. We understand the why, and we understand now how they coming at us. Looking at the word of the Most High, he shows us Edom, Rome, religious leaders that are supposed to be for us are really against us and for their own pockets. Going against the word of the Most High. And when you want to follow the word of the Most High, you can see what you can expect. Not only was Messiah a follower of the Father's word, he represented the Father's word. He was the Father's word made flesh. Like, you can't get no closer than that. And what did they do to him? In spite of him raising the dead, healing leprosy, giving sight to the blind, giving hearing to the deaf, in spite of him doing all of these works, they killed him. They killed him because he was a threat to their authority with Rome and Edom. You hear that? He was a threat to their authority with Rome and Edom. In fact, they said it. Didn't Caiaphas say? He said, you guys know nothing at all. He said, it's expedient that one man should die, that we don't lose both our place and our nation. Their place? Yes. Their place with Rome. Their place in the pecking order. Their money. Their influence. They were afraid of losing that. When we receive the power of the Father's Spirit, that fear is going to come back full force. You saw glimpses of it with people like Fred Hampton and Malcolm X. That was just glimpses of it, because Malcolm X talked about going to the UN, right? And Fred Hampton was bringing all colors of people together under the banner of poor working together. They put the squash on that. They killed them, okay? So they put the squash on that. So this is going to be worse, because this is not just the inspiration of bloodline Hebrews that don't know who they really are. Well, this is the ones that know who they really are and working by the power of the latter rain. That's going to scare them to know where it's in. And that's why they're going to want to kill us. But it's all good, though. It's all good, because it's almost over. It's almost over. Almost over. Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 4. Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 4. Thou shalt not muzzle the ox when he treadeth out the corn. Now, again, somebody would say, well, see, what about the ox? But see, it wasn't about the ox. It wasn't about the ox. Let's get a witness. 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians. It wasn't about the ox. Thou shalt not tread out the ox, muzzle the ox that treaded out the corn. But what was that about? Was it about corn? Was it about the ox? What was it really about? Let's take a look. 1 Corinthians. Make sure I get this right here. I'm always getting these two confused. Yeah, it's 1 Corinthians chapter 9. 1 Corinthians chapter 9. That's it. 1 Corinthians chapter 9. Again, he's rebuking the Corinthians because they started having respect of persons and started treating, everybody as a sect. I got baptized by Cephas. I got baptized by Apollos. I got baptized by Paul. And they started, see, the devil always used the same trick, brethren. It's always divide and conquer. It's always divide and conquer. That's the best trick he uses. Man is God, divide and conquer. Okay, and so they were doing it here, and Paul rebuked it. That's what the 1 Corinthians, the epistle to the Corinthians was about. They're rebuking, and then rebuking because not only they were giving honor to man, but they were letting sin stay in the midst of them. Boy was messing around with his stepmom, and they didn't say nothing about it. Boy was messing around with his stepmom. You know that there's stuff in churches that be going on, right? And nobody says anything. Like a lot of choir directors are homosexuals, right? And y'all know that you could see, I remember there was one, this dude was switching and shaking and effeminate and always having young boys over his house. And so one brother, I told him, I said, man, dude, don't you see what's going on here? He said, oh, that's not true. This brother, he's all right. And then later on, some of them would come out, some of the boys would grow up and say they was gay. And I said, don't you remember he used to spend the night over this dude's house? Oh, you wrong, brother, you wrong. And that's what happens when you're in unrepentant sin, brethren. People ignore it. They act like it don't exist. Or sister so-and-so is messing with brother so-and-so, and everybody in the church knows it, and nobody says anything. I remember I had a girlfriend for a short time once, and I wanted to go see her. And as I didn't know she would, I didn't know who they was until I met her, came close to them, and her father was a preacher, and he had a church in the neighborhood. Okay, he was the preacher of this church. And her mother was always saying, my husband's out doing the work of the Lord, always doing the work of the Lord. And always at night, I was coming over there because, I had other ideas, but I was coming over there at night, and her husband was never there, always doing the work of the Lord. Come to find out, a lot of sisters met his work in the neighborhood. A lot of married sisters ran into his work in the neighborhood. See what I'm saying? And people knew it, but nobody would say anything. That's what happened here. Man having sex with his stepmother, people know it, and nobody say anything. So now Paul is using this epistle to rebuke them. Okay, that's what this epistle was about. Okay, now look, let's go 1 Corinthians chapter 9, beginning at verse 1. Beginning at verse 1, from verse 1 down to verse 10. Am I not an apostle? Am I not free? Have I not seen Yahushua Messiah, our master? Are not ye my work in the Messiah? If I be not an apostle unto others, yet doubtless I am to you. For the seal of mine apostleship are you, ye, in the master. My answer to them that do examine me is this: have we not power to eat and to drink? Have we not power to lead about a sister, a wife, as well as other apostles? And as brethren of the master and of Cephas? Or I only and Barnabas, have not we power to forbear working? Who goeth a warfare anytime at his own charges? Who planteth the vineyard and eateth not the fruit thereof? Or who feedeth the flock and eateth not of the milk of the flock? Say I these things as a man, or saith not the law also? See, he's quoting again the law that everybody claims Paul did away with. For it is written in the law of Moses, thou shalt not muzzle the mouth of the ox that treadeth out the corn. We just read that. He's quoting Deuteronomy 25. He's quoting Deuteronomy 25, verse 4. This is the law that everybody claims Paul is doing away with. So now he's going to teach us what that means. He's actually already teaching, right? For it is written in the law of Moses, thou shalt not muzzle the mouth of the ox that treadeth out the corn. Doth Yah take care for oxen? Or saith he it all together for our sakes? For our sakes, no doubt this is written. So in other words, that wasn't written about oxen, even though he said oxen. He's really using it as an illustration of us. Why? Notice what he said. That he that ploweth should plow in hope. That he that thresheth in hope should be partakers of this hope. What does that mean? That means if you work, you should get paid. Right? You work, you should get paid. You're a farmer, you should be able to taste your fruits. You growing something and it's good, you should be able to eat it. What's part of the curse? That we would work for people and not get paid, or not get paid what we're supposed to, or that we would grow crops and not be able to eat the fruit because the masters would take it. Isn't that what happened? That's how we ended up eating chitlins, right? They would give us the worst part of the hog. They would take the shoulder, they would take the breast, they would take the thighs, and they give us the inward parts that they would normally burn or give to the animals. They give that to us. That's why we get chitlins from. That's where we get blood sausage from. Chitlins are just intestines of the pig. That's why they would give us the stomach. That's where you get pork bellies, where you get bacon. They didn't think it was any good, but our fathers used it to make bacon. And now it's a big thing, right? That's because they weren't giving us. That's why they call you getting good. They call it what? Eating high off the hog. You ever heard that term? You eating high off the hog. Why is that? Because you used to get garbage. You used to plant, grow stuff, and they took it all. And now, so he's saying, I could get paid. I'm worthy to get paid because I work for the Most High. I'm worthy to get paid from you, but I don't take the pay. So he's trying to say, I'm not about the money. I could get it. It'd be fine for me to get money. It'd be fine for me to have a wife if I wanted one. But he's saying, I forsook all that for y'all. Because he's telling the Corinthians, I forsook all that for your sake, so I can work fully to help y'all. Okay, so when he says, thou shalt not muzzle the ox that treadeth the corn, he said, that's for us. That's showing us that if we work at something, we're supposed to get paid for it. So really and truly, but people have perverted that, right? So ministers now demand money, correct? But they demand money more than they demand truth, correct? Which is why in our ministry, I'm trying to follow the example of the Apostle Paul. Paul was a tent maker. What do? Well, I work in IT. I'm trying to work so that I don't ask anybody, please support this ministry. I mean, it's just so ridiculous, right? Please support this ministry. This ministry would not exist without your faithful support. It's a scam. It's a scam. Okay, it's a scam. Paul worked as a tent maker. And he did it. And when he took money, he only took the money to give it to another church. That's what he said. He told the Corinthians, he said, I robbed other churches. I took pay of them so I can help you. You understand? It's a game now. That's why that's why I say I'm not trying to base this ministry on the support of people's money. Like I don't, just to make it clear, I don't tell people, that send me money, I'm gonna send it back to you. I don't do that. But because if somebody got the conviction to do it, then I just let that happen. I don't fight that because that's from the Most High. But you don't hear me out here saying this ministry wouldn't survive without you. We need your money. Please send your tithes to the ministry. It's a con, right? Especially y'all from New York. It's a con. You know a con when you see one. It's just about 3-car Monty. Oh man, but no, they're not scared. They're not scared. That you would think they would, but you see, Diamond Holdings, you're assuming everybody like you that has a conscience that believes in the Most High. They don't believe in the Most High. They believe in that dollar bill, in the God of that dollar bill, which is Caesar. They believe in that. Okay, they believe in that. You understand? See, so that's what it's about. It cream, exactly. Nas said it right. Cash rules everything around me. Get the money, right? He said it right. See, when you're looking around you, you can't see up. Oh, yes, they're going to get what they got coming. They better enjoy. Yeah, exactly. They better enjoy that loot. That's right. Cherokee Indian, the processed hair reverend. There you go. See, so that's why Paul is the example to me of, okay, he knows he could get paid. He knows because he's working for the highest level on earth, but he's not doing it because he don't want his ministry to be mixed up with filthy lucre, not about the money. He earned his money. And when he needed it, he took money, but it was to help other people. See, there you go. Praise the Most High. Now, there's going to come a day when right before we're not able to buy and sell. They're going to do this in stages. So first thing, you're going to have trouble keeping your job. Your faith is going to be tested in keeping your job. At that time, there's going to be people of means, people that are mostly in the entertainment world, not a lot of them, but they're going to give their money to help us at that time, just before we're not able to buy or sell. They'll be just before that. So they'll be realizing what's going on, like Nicodemus, like Joseph of Arimathea, right? There'll be people that means that were in the system and they're realizing what's happening and they're going to sell their stuff. They're going to give their money to help the cause. Okay. And that's going to be a short time before we're not able to buy or sell, but it's going to help the people of Yah. It's going to help us. That's going to come. You're not going to get the majority by any means, but you're going to get a remnant of them. I don't know which ones it is. They'll reveal themselves. We don't know now. But just like the Bible said that Joseph Arimathea was a disciple of Messiah, right? But he said secretly for fear of the Jews. Remember that? Joseph Arimathea said he was a Pharisee, but he was a disciple, but he was secretly a disciple for fear of the Jews. And then we know that Nicodemus came to the Messiah by night, so he wouldn't be seen. So there were people among them that, that were believers, that they didn't want to come out right away. But when it came time, they came out. Brother, let me tell you something. That's going to happen again. Okay? It's nothing new. The Bible shows us everything. So there's going to be some that are in entertainment. I don't know if they're actors or rappers or singers or athletes. Not sure, but they're going to come out of the woodwork at the time when we're not able to work. We still could buy ourselves, but we're not able to work, and they'll provide. The Most High will have them come forward. You'll see. Yeah, exactly. See, so there you go. We'll see what happens, but everybody's going to be tried. We don't know where, just like I said, nobody at the time knew about Nicodemus or Joseph Arimathea, but Messiah knew. You know what I'm saying? Messiah knew. Okay, so we'll see. But don't worry, the Most High shows us everything beforehand. Deuteronomy chapter 24. Okay, I'm going to stop because I want to start the second part with the royal seed, which is what we're dealing with in the next segment, the royal seed. So I'm going to make a part 2 of this one. But yes, praise the Most High. We'll come back about 1:30 or thereabout. Y'all know me. About 1:30, we'll come back by the grace of the Most High. Continue our study here in chapter 25. So far, we studied the 40 stripes and we studied muzzle and the ox. Praise the Most High, which are both mentioned in Paul's writings. Praise the Most High. Isn't that amazing? Chapter 25, right? Chapter 25, we're going to begin at verse 5. But yeah, isn't that interesting how Paul is teaching from the law? Did you ever believe when you was a Christian that Paul was teaching us about the law, that he wasn't doing away with it, but he was actually trying to teach us how it applies? That's what he was doing, teaching the Gentiles how it applies. He wasn't teaching the Hebrews because Hebrews should have known. He was teaching the Gentiles how it applies. Praise the Most High. But now we are basically Hellenists because all of us have been living among Gentiles for centuries, right? And start to live like Gentiles. And some of us don't even realize who we are. So now here we are being awakened. Praise the Most High. May the Most High bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, brother.